Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to be doing some commentary for this Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War ranked LTC playthrough. You can find the rules for this in the description, but basically we're trying to beat the game with the minimum turn count while obtaining the maximum rank. We're also going to avoid using most of the game-breaking glitches in this game, such as the Rescue Glitch or the Valkyrie Glitch. Some of the more minor exploits may be used though, and we'll talk about those when they happen. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the prologue. So Genealogy's Prologue is a pretty simple map. We need to conquer two castles, Jungvie and Evans. They also have to be conquered in that order, because Evans is not accessible until Jungvie is conquered. The game is also kind enough to start us off with 4 units. First up, we got Sigurd, probably one of the strongest units in the entire Fire Emblem series. Sigurd's going to be a centerpiece for this entire run, so if there's one unit that you should be watching on every map, it's him. Up next, we got Alec and Nisha. They're not quite as spectacular in combat as Sigurd, but in a run like this, we need some fairly competent high-move units, and they fit the bill. Last up is Arden, and he's not great, but he is helpful every now and again, and we got some good uses for him planned later, so be on the lookout for those. On turn 2, we get Azel and Lex joining us from the top. Lex is another high-movement combat unit, about on par with Alec and Nisha. Meanwhile, we got Azel, who's kind of an interesting unit. We have some uses for him way later in the run, but early on he's not going to be doing a whole lot. Training up Azel is quite difficult, probably one of the hardest characters to train in this game, so it's important that we get him as much experience as possible. So for right now in the prologue, Azel is going to be trying to get as much experience from where he starts. He can't really handle all the enemies by himself, so that's why Lex is there to chip away at some enemies for him. Once Azel's in a safer position, Lex is going to move off and join up with Alec and Nisha as we push towards Evans Castle. Our strategy for Jungvie Castle is to have Sigurd basically solo it all by himself. Alec and Nisha don't really help at all at this castle, and we want all the experience to go to Sigurd anyways. So it's just a lot easier to send him by himself while Alec and Nisha go around the top. Nisha also is going around top for a different reason. There's a side objective that only he can really accomplish. Alec is mostly there for support, as both Alec and Nisha combine to kill enemies on this map, which is pretty handy. On turn 3, we got Quan, Ethlin, and Finn joining us. Quan is in a promoted class, much like Sigurd, giving him 9 movement, and that's really important for this kind of run, as he's the only unit that can really keep up with Sigurd on the various maps. Ethlin's a very interesting unit. She's the only unit we're going to have access to for a while that can use stabs while mounted. She also buffs Sigurd by standing next to him, and these two traits combined make her one of the most essential units for a low turn playthrough. Last up, we got Finn. He's an unpromoted mounted unit similar to Nisha, Alec, and Lex. However, he stands above them in terms of combat, as at times his combat can be comparable to that of Sigurd's. Unfortunately, in this map, there isn't a whole lot to do with Finn, so he's going to be completing a side objective for us and not really doing much else. At Jungvie Castle, Sigurd can only one-round the guards if he's gained 2 points of strength. The RNG is static in this game, meaning it rolls the same every time, so he's guaranteed to get those 2 points. It's possible for Sigurd to one-round the guards without these 2 strength procs, but it would require him using the Iron Lance. We don't really want to do that, because it gets less kills onto the Steel Sword, as well as the fact that Sigurd's probably going to take a hit from it. Movement-wise, it looks like that Sigurd can seize on turn 4, but in actuality, he can't. The combination of the boss and the castle guards are just too strong that anybody that could get there by turn 4 just wouldn't really make a difference. That's why we wait an extra turn for Quan to show up, because the combination of an extra turn plus Quan being there is just enough to more or less trivialize the encounter. Upon seizing the castle, we got access to Midir. Midir uses bows, which are often seen as not very good in Fire Emblem. However, in Genealogy, there's some pretty spicy bows that we get access to, and Midir's the only mounted unit with access to them for quite a while, so he's got a bit of a place in this run. Though he's going to end up a bit under-leveled because of it, his money budget's very tight in this run, but don't let that trick you into thinking he's not a great unit. Up top, we had a green unit join. His name is Arvis, and he's here to deliver a silver sword to Sigurd. Unfortunately, due to the way his movement AI is coded, Arvis won't actually move far enough to reach Sigurd in time. This is why we sent Nisha up the top and around. He baited up an Axe Fighter, and over 2 rounds of combat will put him into a position where Arvis will then decide to use more movement than he normally would. and put himself in range of actually being able to give Sigurd the Silver Sword. Nisha's the only one that can really accomplish this feat because he doesn't 2-round KO enemies like Alec does, and he actually has movement unlike Arden. The village that we left open down south has the speed ring. The speed ring gives us +5 speed, but in Genealogy, not every unit really benefits from more speed. The unit that benefits the most from speed in this game is probably Finn. Finn's weapon type of lances are kinda heavy, however, Finn has the pursuit skill which allows him to double with his speed stat, so he's the most logical unit to give the ring to, and it also helps that there really isn't anything else for Finn to do on this map. One thing we're doing is we want to filter as many kills as possible onto weapons in this game. For those uninitiated, weapons in Genealogy, once they reach 50 kills, gain access to the critical skill. Normally, units in this game have 0% critical, however, with the critical skill, they can add their skill stat to their critical modifier. Also, every kill after 50 increases their critical by 1. So the best thing you want to do with this is try to feed as many kills as possible onto as few as weapons as possible. The weapons that we're building kills on this chapter is Sigurd's Steel Sword, Quan's Javelin, and the newly acquired Silver Sword. Though I would say that was probably one of the bigger mistakes in this run, and it may do better to skip building kills on that sword entirely. As we move over to the bridge that was kindly put up for us by Evans, we run into a bit of an issue. There's a lot of archers on the other side of the bridge, and they're going to try and stand in our way if we don't do something about it. That's why we place a bunch of our units on the side of the river, because it will bait the archers into attacking them. This allows us to get a mostly clean shot for Sigurd to fight the boss. Sigurd unfortunately doesn't kill the boss on his own, and this is where Ethlin comes in. Because Ethlin and Sigurd are siblings, they provide themselves 20 critical when they stand next to each other. Critical hits in this game are also way more destructive than they are in other Fire Emblem games, as they double their attack before factoring in defense. This allows for just a single hit plus a critical hit from Sigurd to take out the boss, even if Sigurd didn't level up strength at all. The chance of getting a single critical hit on 2 swings is only 36%, which isn't great. What we could have done instead is have Quan get an adept proc on the boss, and this would weaken him just enough for Sigurd to finish him. This is less reliable than relying on a critical hit, so that's why we went with the other option. Anyways, that about cleans it up for this chapter. Thanks all for watching. Next time we're going to hop right into Chapter 1. See ya!